What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Ask Alex, where this is the show where I take your questions and answer them here on this show. And I couldn't do this show without my amazing panelists. How are you guys doing today, Jeremy and Ian?
Man, I'm glad to be here. I'm excited about whatever topics we're going to be discussing today. Typically, I look over the docket, but I literally walked in, turned on my camera. So here we are. I'm ready to get into this week's episode of Ask Alex.
What about you, Ian? How are you feeling about the show today?
Listen, my whole week has been controversial. Let's just keep it going. I'm ready.
And by the way, guys, we are not reviewing Cracker on this channel, so just letting you guys know, y'all can head over to the controversy for that. But if this is your very first time ever watching any of my videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, then hit that bell right next to it. That way you get all the notifications every time I release a video here on Momentum Media. And also, I would really appreciate it if you hit a like on this video or a dislike. That way I can stay in the algorithm of what we're doing here at Momentum Media. Now, if you want your question or topic on this channel, all you have to do, guys, is just send me an email at the AskAlexShow@gmail.com. That's the AskAlexShow@gmail.com. You'll see the graphic that pops up on the screen. Also, I will leave the email in the link in the description below. And you guys, we have a very interesting show for you guys today. Like I said, we are not reviewing that Amazon series trash, but we do have some very controversial topics to talk about today. And the very first question comes from a Perry Gomez. And she writes, "Hey Alex, so Michael Keaton has been confirmed to reprise his role as Batman on the Flashpoint movie. I'm really confused on where the DCEU is going with their characters. Do you think that this is a smart idea? Or do you think this is a smart idea for WB? And does this mean that Ezra Miller is the Flash?" Thank you for your question, Perry. So literally within the last 24 hours, it hasn't been confirmed, but Michael Keaton is currently in talks with Warner Brothers to reprise his role as Batman. Also, there are rumors surrounding this news that he's returning as an older Bruce Wayne, saying that this could set up a potential Batman and Beyond movie, which is somewhat confusing because Robert Pattinson is confirmed as Bruce Wayne Batman. And this Flashpoint movie, if you ever read the comics of Flashpoint, basically Flash goes back, saves his mom, and he creates this new world by doing that. And he embraces a darker Batman, and maybe Michael Keaton could be that darker Batman, or this could be a whole different convoluted thing. Flashpoint in itself is a very convoluted comic book in series. So when you look at it, I can understand why they're trying to do what they're doing, but at the same time, it doesn't make any sense because you have Michael Keaton coming back as Batman, possibly. Ben Affleck's not Batman, and now Robert Pattinson is Batman, but we don't know if this is set in the early 90s or our current time right now. So it's a whole lot of Batman craziness that I personally don't understand. But to answer the second part of that question, is Ezra Miller is he back as the Flash? I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I don't know. Nobody from his camp has said anything about that recent situation. Nobody from Warner Brothers has said anything about that recent situation. From what I tend to understand, Warner Brothers, at least from what I know about that company in general, if you're going to do something like that, they typically take action quite quickly. I mean, even in our next topic, which we'll dive into, one of the actors of the TV show Flash got fired for some comments that he made. This movie version of Flash chokeslammed a woman, and he still potentially has his job. I mean, this is so convoluted. I honestly don't know. But, Jeremy, you've seen this news. Do you think that, the Ezra Miller is still the Flash? And what do you think about Michael Keaton coming back as Batman or a future Batman to set up Batman Beyond?
Am I the only person that thinks it's weird that just a couple weeks ago we get footage of Ezra Miller tombstone pile driving some chick on video, and then all of a sudden the Undertaker retires from WWE? Coincidence? I'm just saying.
I think
a little weird. Yeah. Dude, the Flashpoint comic book is the one, if I'm not mistaken, that introduces Thomas Wayne. It's like an alternate timeline where we do have an older Batman, but it's not Bruce Wayne.
Right.
We've got Michael Keaton playing Bruce Wayne in the 1989 Batman. Yeah, okay, so the thing about the Speed Force with the Flash, let me act like I know what I'm talking about here. The thing about the Speed Force with the Flash is that he's able to travel so fast that time becomes relative. Like, the faster you go, the slower time moves. So in theory, if you go fast enough, you can turn back time. I believe Superman did that in the second Superman movie. To be real honest, I hadn't seen any of those Superman movies except for Man of Steel. But so they have a lot of leeway. Ezra Miller showed up in the Flashpoint crossover series that happened on CW. So they've set up the multiverse thing. What the multiverse is to me is the DC equivalent of the time travel stuff in the MCU. I hate both of these things. I absolutely hate both of these things. I feel like they did it pretty well in the MCU, but it's a get out of jail free card where writers can just do anything they want to, and you can just write it off as, oh no, it's time travel. Don't worry about it. Multiverse. That said, it's pretty dope that we might see Michael Keaton as Batman again. I think that's super cool. Yeah. But I remember Michael Keaton saying back in the day that he kind of resented that he was known as only like a costumed hero. And that was before he did Birdman. And that was before he did The Vulture. And that was before he may potentially go back to being Batman. So he's always just been a winged comic book character for the majority of his career. But the more Michael Keaton, the better. So I'm cool with that. But yeah, to your point, Alex, I feel like this is and this is not hyperbole. I feel like this is year 5 in the Flash movie saga. And I don't feel like we're any closer now to where we were 5 years ago. So until I see a trailer, which I've seen a trailer of Mutants, still not so sure we're ever going to see that. So even after I see a trailer, I might not still buy it. But for right now, I'm still saying, like, none of this is happening anyways.
You know what? I'm glad he said that, because I don't believe this is any of this is happening at all. To be honest, when I heard it and I shared it through our group me, I really felt like it was comical. Like, seriously, I really thought it was like a really bad joke. But it seems like from what I read and like the person I talked to, like Michael Keaton's people did talk to Warner Brothers. Like, so there is that dynamic going on. It's funny that also Jeremy said that he would always be remembered as Batman. I also remember him as Beetlejuice too. So, I mean, that guy, he has a fond thing of playing iconic characters. But Ian, you heard this news. What do you think about Michael Keaton joining the DCEU, potentially setting up Batman Beyond? And what do you think about Ezra Miller still potentially being the Flash?
Oh, God. Okay, let's start. I got this written down.
Look, he's got notes. Great.
Just throw that away. Just throw that away. It says a timeline. No need for that. Okay? Let's just take all this out of the equation. Because it doesn't matter. It's like you ever watching Whose Line Is It Anyway, where the points didn't matter? You know, they just did it. Yeah. This is what the DCEU does. You know, nothing matters. You know, they tried to plan out something, just didn't work. And you know, as much planning and devotion to their stuff, the more of a mess it becomes. So, like I just did, I'm just going to stop even like trying. I just don't even care anymore because it's obviously not ever going to make sense. So, with that being said, I do love Michael Keaton. I thought he was a great Batman, and like Alex said, when you say Michael Keaton, I always think Beetlejuice. That is his most iconic role, in my opinion. I know a lot of people love him more as Batman. I get it. He was a good Batman. I have been campaigning for a Batman Beyond movie for the longest. Like, I mean, I love the character of Bruce Wayne, and I love that era, but there's just something about that television show and the future of Gotham that just always intrigued me. So if they're going that route, I'm for it. If that's what they're going to try and introduce, because I would rather see that than honestly this new Batman movie, which I am going to see. But I mean, I'd rather see what's his name, or something Terry.
Terry McGinnis.
Terry McGinnis. I'd rather see Terry McGinnis Batman. When it comes to Ezra Miller and the Flash, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense when we're dealing with timelines and alternate universes. Like Jeremy said, you can do what the hell you want. They'll explain it. I mean, I'm sure it'll make sense in their WB head. But, us as the consumer, we'll just be like, okay, well, whatever. As Ezra Miller's the Flash, I've been on record saying he's not my favorite. He's not my number one choice. Learn how to run, you idiot. That's all I got to say about that. I don't know what all that's about. I love the CW Flash, and I really wish they would just. I'm sure if they're doing some kind of crossover events and Flashpoint stuff, I'm sure we'll eventually see him on the big screen. But I'm intrigued. We'll see. But at the same time, I'm very confused, and I'm just gonna stop giving my opinion about it because I'm going to go cross-eyed.
I mean, very interesting points. I will say that the one positive thing is that with Flashpoint, you can really reset the universe and establish a new timeline where certain things make sense and certain other things don't make sense, where you can erase, if Henry Cavill really is back, you can erase him or erase Ben Affleck. I mean, that's the cool thing about Flashpoint, but like my panelist said, this whole thing is so convoluted, it doesn't even make any sense. But speaking of speaking of people potentially being canceled, you guys are going to love our next topic. And our next topic comes from a Dave Moore. And he writes, "Hey, Alex, so in recent history, there have been actors/directors fired for tweets that they have made in the past. Do you think that companies should fire their talent because of tweets they have made in the past?" Well, thank you for your question, Dave. Now, I'm gonna tread somewhat lightly on this thing. I'm gonna be brutally honest, but I'm gonna tread lightly in regards to, okay, I actually know some people at studios, so if they watch this, I don't want to hinder any of my opportunities. But anyway, I'm gonna be honest. So here's the thing. And me and my panelists, we addressed this in one of the videos we did about separating the art from the artist. If you put a camera on all of our lives from beginning to where we are now, all of us would be canceled. That's just being honest. Like, we've all said and done some stupid things. My feeling on this as a man, as a businessman, even as a black man, I understand that there are going to be things in our past that we have said or done that are eventually not who we are right now. I know 16 version of Alex is way different than 27-year-old version of Alex. And you have to understand that if I've evolved as a person and that's not who I used to be, I think that there should be some leniency. But with that being said, from a company standpoint, in regards to Mr. Sawyer, who got fired from The Flash, from a company standpoint and the CW, most of their characters are, LGBTQ, and then also you have Black, Hispanic, and Asian and white characters. In that particular setting, as a company, I would probably have to fire him for what he said. Because what you said affects all of the co-workers that you work with. And I'm not talking about just people from The Flash. You got Black Lightning, you got Arrow, you got Legends, you got people outside of the Arrowverse who subscribe to what the CW is doing. And I can't necessarily get angry at the CW for doing that, because they had to do that for them. They had to do that. That was the right business move for them to do. Whether I agree or disagree with it or not is irrelevant, but I will say this, is that if you do something in your past and you're that same person, you deserve all your consequences that come to you. But if you do something in your past and you've evolved and you want a chance to redeem yourself, okay, you can definitely continue doing that. If a job fires you because of that, I understand why they did that, but also keep in mind, James Gunn got a second chance. So second chances are out there. But But also keep in mind, when I look at Mr. Sawyer and James Gunn, there's a different level of celebrity that people are willing to tolerate. Like, I'm willing to tolerate more of James Gunn's fantastic movies than I am Mr. Sawyer's acting. That's not to say I like one or the other, but if I had to choose, it would potentially probably be James Gunn. But at the end of the day, I don't agree necessarily with cancel culture. But if you do something in your past, and I just have to be honest, if you do something in your past that's documented, especially online, more than likely it's going to follow you. But you have to address it. You have to address it and make it known and say, like, listen, yes, I did this, but I'm not that person anymore. That's what you have to do as a human being. Now, whether if a company wants to keep you or not, that's between them and that company. But at the end of the day, especially when you're playing a superhero, you have to be very careful about what you have to say. Because I guarantee you, anybody that's in the DCEU, the MCU, the Arrowverse, if they start spouting out racial slurs or homophobic stuff between they got hired and now, I guarantee you majority of them will not have a job. They won't. I guarantee you that won't happen. And you have to be very, very careful about what you post and even things that you say on and off camera. But I know you guys love controversy. I'm gonna pass this on to Ian. Ian, what do you think about old tweets resurfacing, and do you think that there should be do you think that actors or directors should get fired for old tweets depending on what they are?
A very loaded question, Alex, and I'm going to give a different answer than I would usually give, because I've been asked this question multiple times, but I've been thinking a little bit after hearing you talk a little bit, and I'm going to freelance this one, freeball this one. Mm-hmm. I think we should all get canceled, and I'll explain, the weird thing to say about that. I think everybody should just all get canceled. We should all just own up to our stupid stuff that we've said and done. Actors, directors, writers, us on YouTube, the nanny that watches our kids. We should all just throw out the dumbest thing and stupidest thing we've said, just so we could just avoid this day that's going to eventually come. Because like you said, we all, we are not the same person. 16-year-old me, I wish I could knock him the hell out. He was a stupid idiot. So that's what I'm saying. This is why I'm going to campaign for it. We should just cancel it ourselves. Just throw yourself out there, because we all know we're not holier than thou. We, as Jesus would say, if you believe in that, whoever's without sin, throw the first stone. Right. So because there's literally people out there, their full-time job is not working, but to look for your mistakes. That's literally what they're digging up tweets because they're bored with, whatever going on in their life. They don't have anything else to do. So let's just not give them the satisfaction. Let's do it before them. Like Eminem did in 8 Mile. He pretty much said, you know what? I am a bum. You fucked my girl. I live in a trailer and all this stuff. But you know what? I'm still dope. I think we should eventually do that, because I'm just getting tired of seeing this all the time. Now, as you said too, if you're not changed, like if you're still like saying stupid racist stuff or stupid, sexist things and raping people, then obviously you shouldn't be representing an entertaining company or any type of company. Mm-hmm. If I owned a company, if I knew you were doing that, you'd be gone immediately. Exactly. So I guess, there's a double-edged sword. Like sometimes there needs to be that awareness, because some people don't know about logic or life. But at the same time, though, this digging up tweet stuff, I'm kind of getting over it. And it's like, even with Jimmy Kimmel, he said some racist things recently, or they're digging up stuff recently from what he said in the past, his man show days, the blackface and the racial things. Honestly, as a black man, I don't care, and it's weird to say that, people might call me a sellout, but I don't care, because I watched the man show back in the day. I knew the type of person he is. I know from watching him in the 90s to now that he has grown, and he doesn't think and act like that anymore. So to me, this is a waste of time. There's other things to worry about. If you want to think political or justice, injustice and all that stuff in our society, why are we digging up old stuff from other people? Are we that bored? Come on. That's all I got to say about that. Cancel me. Cancel the controversy. I've done and said stupid stuff. Don't fuck with me and let me redeem myself.
And there. I want to point out these are the opinions of Ian Elliott Carter. I'm kidding. But anyway, but like honestly though, I agree with what he said. We should all be canceled. Seriously, because if you put a camera on us between the day we were born up until now, I guarantee you would not be pleased by everything that we did. And also, before I pass it to Jeremy, I would like to point out the people who are constantly searching for old tweets or old frantic posts from 10 plus years ago. You guys are the most evil people that I've ever seen. You really have nothing better else to do. Like I didn't agree with what happened. And again, I'm not condoning what anybody has said. The stuff that Sawyer said was stupid and dumb. The stuff that James Gunn said was stupid and dumb. Even the stuff that Kevin Hart said was stupid and dumb. But they have all apologized and took accountability for their actions. Granted, I understand that, there are some things that people can't get over. I get it. But for people to go dig up tweets or Instagram or Facebook posts, it's like you have nothing better else to do. I don't understand that. But Jeremy, you heard this news about people getting fired from old tweets or posts. What do you think about people getting fired by these old things from our past?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't bring any props with me today, so I'm not going to have the same dramatic heft to what I'm about to say. But as the resident white dude on the panel, I think you should be able to say whatever you want with zero consequences, no matter when it is or what it is. Thank you. That's my TED Talk.
Oh, wow.
Oh, shit. No, I mean, all things are not equal. All things are not equal. And that's what I want to drive home to you guys. And Alex, I think you bring up a very interesting point, because are we approaching this from the perspective of the companies that let go of these people? Are we approaching this from the perspective of these people that get let go? Are we approaching this from the angle of the people who get offended by the things that these people said? Mm-hmm. And then, the way that Donald Trump is trying to group protesters and rioters as the same group of people is the same as saying like what Louis C.K. did is the same as what James Gunn did, right? Right. Doing something to people is a lot different than saying something stupid. What I just now did, out of context, it's stupid shock humor. I don't mean it. It's satire. It's the purpose of it is to point out how ridiculous something like that is. It's not my intention to say this to somebody and then take it literally. I also feel that it's not my responsibility to hope that every single person in the world understands and gets the nuance in what I'm saying. There was a couple of teachers here in the area lately, in the area here in Escambia County, here in Pensacola, Florida Panhandle. Mm-hmm. And this teacher, white woman, came out with this 4-paragraph post about privilege, and then started drawing parallels between privilege and social programs like welfare and food stamps, and saying privilege is this and that and the other thing. And it's like, lady, you're a teacher right now. You just now said that. Mm-hmm. Of course the school's going to fire you. Exactly. Like, you have the right to say it. You can say it. Nobody's saying you can't say it. Mm-hmm. But you're going to have to deal with the consequences of it, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's not illegal to be a porn star, but if you're a 5th grade teacher and you post porn videos of yourself, chances are pretty good you're going to get fired. So you just have to understand the consequences that are associated with it. That said, I feel like there should be a statute of limitation as far as stuff goes. You know what I mean? Like, if I said some shit 5 years ago and you want to come to me with it today and be like, I'm holding you responsible for this thing that you said 5 years ago, I mean, I guess I would do what everybody else does, hire some person to write me a nice, eloquent apology so that I could post it and hope for some good PR spin off of it. But all these people are just like, man, why did you have to single me out when all of us, every single person, that we poop, we masturbate, We do all sorts of stuff that is weird when you say it in the context of like a public space. So like you were saying about having a camera on you for 24 hours a day, we don't want to acknowledge that each other are human beings. We don't want to acknowledge that each other are flawed, because in order to feel superior, you have to be able to like finger wag at other people. So if I'm going to be self-righteous, I can't let you know about my flaws, my faults, the things that I've done wrong in the past. But I think about a comedian like Andrew Schultz. I don't know if you guys know who that is, Andrew Schultz.
Yeah. He's on the Brilliant Idiots with Charlemagne.
Yes, yeah. And he's fantastic, and he's a fairly controversial comedian as far as a lot of the stuff that he says is a little bit edgy, but he's a nice person. Like there's a TED Talk that he did where there's a woman in the audience that starts having a seizure. He goes into the audience, he helps the woman, he makes sure that she gets out of the club and that she goes and gets help from the paramedics or whatever. He goes up and continues on his set, and he starts to joke about it. Mm-hmm. And this woman in the crowd, she stands up and she's like, no, you cannot joke about that. That is just not funny. And he said, well, what do you do for a living? Mm-hmm. And she said, oh, I'm an EMT. And he said, well, then why didn't you get up and help?
Wow.
Because it's easier to complain, and we feel like that's good enough. Like all of a sudden we're morality or justness just because we can complain about shit. It's like, do something better with your time. Instead of digging up tweets from irresponsible artists who over the course of their lives have inevitably said or done something stupid, put some time into charity work. Go down to a soup kitchen. Shut up. Get off these people's cases and go do something positive with your time. As far as what that guy said, I personally wasn't super offended by it, but I wouldn't be. You know what I mean? It's not for me to decide. And I think, Alex, you brought up a really good point that it's a team. It's a collective. There are a lot of people whose feelings could have legitimately been hurt. It's hard to say. With the James Gunn thing, I look at those tweets and I'm like, that's obviously a dumb joke. That's obviously a bad attempt at satire because child molesters typically, I wouldn't think, would post their crimes or their intention of committing a crime to their millions of followers. There's this such a dissonance to me. Who cares about what people say? We need to take the power away from words. Words are the cheapest, easiest bullshit. Look at me. I've been sitting here for 5 minutes talking. It means nothing. Like, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. So let's focus less on what people are saying and focus a lot more on the things that they do to decide whether or not they are good people or the content of their character. Because I just feel like this idea of misconstruing and taking things out of context, it's just tired. It's just getting old.
Yeah. And I agree. I agree that, I agree with my panelists that, I do think that when you say things, there are consequences for the things that you say. That's why I said earlier, I'm going to tread lightly because, again, I actually know a couple people who watch my show who are higher ups, but they won't. It's funny. They watch my show, but they won't promote the damn thing. But okay. But at the same thing, but at the same time, I understand and I respect what they do, but at the same time, everything that I or anyone says, there's a consequence for. That's why you have to be very careful about the things that you say. Also, keep in mind, and there's one thing I will say before I go to the next topic. I find it odd that Warner Brothers, who owns the CW, took it upon themselves to fire Hartley Sawyer, which they're within their rights to do. Ezra Miller's to the Flash, and we have him on tape. On tape.
Recently, those tweets are old. Ezra Miller, like a couple months ago, did this.
Exactly, and that's where the disconnect is. And again, I'm sure WB will probably come out once they start revving up production for this movie about Ezra Miller. But who's to say if he'll still be the Flash or not? But what do you guys think? Do you think people should be canceled for the things that they tweet or the things that they say? Do you think that Warner Brothers or other companies have the right to fire those particular actors? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And we're going to get into the final question today. And, this is actually a really good question from a person I actually know who sent this to me. And I can't wait to dive into it. And this question comes from Aaliyah Grace. And she writes, "Hey, Alex, so do you think you can reason with fanboys who think they're right all the time? I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to get them to see the very thing they like so much has flaws. How do you handle toxic fanboys?" Well, thank you for your question, Leah, and thank you so much for promoting the show as well. You're an amazing friend. I'm gonna put this into two categories. So there's a positive and a negative. I'll use myself as an example for the positive, at least. I'm a huge fanboy of Static Shock. I love Virgil. I love the lore. I love his powers. I love the essence of Virgil Hawkins because I can relate to him a whole lot, right? Like, that's my guy. Like, there's nobody can tell me that he is a terrible character because I don't believe that. However, though, I can acknowledge that in compare to him as a comic book character, in comparison to others, he is not that great in comparison to others. Black Panther is obviously the better superhero. Spider-Man, Batman, these characters who have a lineage are better superheroes. That doesn't diminish him as a character, but at the same time, I understand that Static Shock and all of his greatness has flaws. Like, some of his villains are very silly. I don't understand why it takes you a whole 30 minutes for some of your villains to beat. If your powers are electricity and you have a problem fighting somebody who has powers who have water, I don't really understand how you can't just handle that within 2 to 3 minutes. That's just me, but I understand that there's a flaw in terms of the writing of that particular character. So I love Static. I can't wait to see whatever they do with Static in the near future, if they choose to do anything with Static in the near future. Now, the negative side of that, I won't say who, because I've collaborated with this person before. There's a particular person that I know that loves this particular property a whole lot. And the moment anybody says anything negative about them, about this particular property, they will go off. Well, they won't go off per se, but they would definitely give you a commentary on why you were wrong for feeling how you feel about it. And I can tell you that, and I've made videos about this. Me and Jeremy have made videos about this. I'm just telling you right now that if I see a flaw in a particular property, doesn't mean that the property sucks. It just means that, hey, there's a flaw there that doesn't make it all that great. As a fan, I can acknowledge that. If I'm showing you evidence of this not being a great property as you claim it to be, I'm just pointing out that I'm not trying to shit on it. I just want you to come back to reality that, hey, it's cool, but it ain't in comparison to others, it really isn't all where we weigh it. Like, although I think Static is better than Batman, right? I think he's better than Batman. We all know Batman would whoop Virgil's ass. That is very true. But at the same time, when you look at toxic or negative fanboys, you have to understand that there's certain things that you can say, there's certain things that you cannot say. It kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, that there's a consequence for everything that you say. However, though, I will say that I don't hate the fact that if you love something that much and it's perfect to you, that's great, but at the same time, when you're dealing with toxic fanboys or just negativity about fanboys who really love something, I mean, all you really can do is just hear them out. If they don't really want to hear you out, then you just keep it pushing. But I'm sure my panelists have dealt with this before. Jeremy, what do you think about fanboys and their love for their thing that they like, and how do you deal with the negativity that comes with that?
When dealing with a toxic fanboy, you just look him in the eyes, and you let out a long sigh, and you say, "You're right. Zack Snyder is the greatest director in the world." I hear you, man. And that'll usually shut him up, or be like, "Yeah, you're right. You're right. Heath Ledger is the best Joker. Yeah, you're right. Okay, cool." It's always fucking DC fans. Can we take that out in post? Can we take that out in post? Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. There are
Hey,
all sorts.
Jeremy, you just made a lot of people horny with that Zack Snyder.
I know, right? Oh man, yes, Christopher Nolan is the auteur of our time. We get it. Mm-hmm. Come on. No, but we all have what would you call it? Like our own individual bias. Like I'm pretty good. I like to pride myself in being pretty good at being able to separate myself from my fandom. There's still a couple of things though, right? Like yesterday I posted that Kurt Cobain's guitar was auctioned off for $6 million. Not like a diehard Nirvana fan, but as a teenager, as a adolescent growing up in the suburbs in the early to mid 90s, I was a huge fan of Nirvana. So when people just outright dismiss this thing that I love, I do feel part of me that wants to defend it because I feel like it's part of who I am, you know? Lord of the Rings is another really good example of something that I hold very, very close to me. So when another person does that with Star Wars, when another person does that with DC movies, Marvel movies, whatever the thing is, I'm not trying to come over and pee in your pool. You know what I mean? So right. I'll meet you where you're at. And if you love Static Shock, then I'll try to look for the things that I like about the character. Now, because you and I are familiar and we're friends, I might bust your balls about things that I don't necessarily like about him. But as far as just like random people on the internet, you can't really, I don't think you can usually get through to somebody that the thing that they like, they shouldn't like. Like, again, back to the Nirvana thing. Like this went back and forth, and then eventually I just got exhausted. I'm like, why do I feel like I have to defend my taste against what somebody else's taste is? I know I'm about to sound like John Campea, but like film, music, art, there are a few objective truths, but for the most part, it's completely subjective. Like I may be looking for the Starbucks cup in the last season of Game of Thrones, but somebody else, they may not have noticed that cup in the 8th season of Game of Thrones and think it's the greatest series of television ever made. Is it right? Is it true? Right. I mean, obviously it is to them. If they say it's the greatest, then it's the greatest. I can't tell them that it's not the greatest. But I do feel like, and especially in our space, we should be able to appraise things on their strengths and their weaknesses. Like Lord of the Rings, let's just use that for an example. I really like the trilogy. I like the theatrical run. I like the extended edition. I think that the theatrical editions probably had better pacing for general audiences. I think most people don't care about all the extended Tolkien lore, but for a fan, you would probably like a lot of that supplemental material. So I guess my biggest takeaway is don't try to deal with toxic fans. Like, I mean, engage if you want to engage, but know that at the end of the day, you can't win and argue about opinions. You know what I mean? That's just it. Like, I'm not going to walk away liking the thing that I like less. And you're not going to walk away with a greater appreciation because I tried to, and maybe y'all would, but most people wouldn't. So yeah, my kind of takeaway is don't necessarily try to bring people over to your side. Meet them where they're at. And I think that you'll have much more productive conversations that way.
Definitely. Ian, what about you? What about toxic fanboys? How do you get them to understand that some of the things that they like potentially could have flaw? Like it's not as perfect as they hold it up to be.
All right. I'm going to tell you this story about this guy named Jeremy Branch.
God.
Did a collaboration in the early days when I first met him. And he started asking me these Lord of the Rings questions and these Game of Thrones questions. And he just went on and on about this and that and that. And I was just like, I'm going to be real with you, man. I don't like this Dungeons and Dragons shit. It's not for me. and he cried.
Ain't talked
He cried. He yelled at me. He called me Nate. He talked about my mother. You know, he took it very, very personal. And I was like, dude, I'm just not into it. I'm just kidding, you know. But I know that's his shit.
It's partially a true story. Yeah.
It's based on a true story. But no, that's his shit, you know. And you know, I've never, as much as I gave my opinion of how that's not my lane. I clown at his age more than his love for Lord of the Rings. I don't care. That's what he likes.
To be real honest, I would way rather him clown on me about Lord of the Rings. But, you know.
Not going anywhere anytime soon, old. So, that being said, too, man, when we're dealing with fanboys and we're dealing with things that we love, we got to be self-aware before we can even talk about other people. And I think Alex said it perfectly. Listen, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars, love them to death. Probably the most toxic fan base of all time. You know, and
most definitely.
Don't even. I would suggest don't even engage with these people because some of them just got nothing else to do. But you know, you got to be self-aware. The script, it should never work on paper. It's a bunch of freaking monks that move things with their mind, and they have a flashlight. The thing is stupid, but we love it. Because it's great script writing, you know, it's great character development. So, you know, we got to be self-aware, like, okay, this is not Shakespeare. This is fucking Star Wars. Yeah. And I love the MCU. I used to have a friend. Every time I talk about the new MCU movie, he'd shit on it. He'd just say, oh, this is stupid. It's so silly. It's dumb. And then when I say something like, hey, what about this Martha scene? It doesn't make any damn sense. You're like, you don't know movies. Fuck you. I'm like, okay. We can't have this conversation. If I'm going to be self-aware, you got to be self-aware. Yeah. And at the end of the day, this is a movie. You know, I can be except Dragon Ball Z. That's a perfect series. There's nothing illogical about that. Dragon Ball Z is perfect. I'm just kidding.
A bunch of white guys flying around with the yellow hair. Yeah, that's very logical.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but I'm a fanboy of that. So honestly, that's my take. We got to be self-aware before we can eat. If you can dish it, you got to be able to take it. Yeah. That's all I got to say about that. And, you know, I'm very self-aware of all of my favorite franchises. I know that they got flaws. I know that they're not perfect. But you know what? I'm okay with that because it's not going to stop my love for it. You know? And that's one thing we got to deal with. And you're not going to hang out with Goku after we have this conversation because he's not real. We're not. So, at the end of the day, you know, if you don't know these people personal, I wouldn't even engage because sometimes they just want to arise out of you. And I understand some things are near and dear to your heart. They might take you back to your first girlfriend, or they might remind you of your father, or something when you went to the movies. I get it. So some people might take that personally if you don't like what they like. But like I said, just be more self-aware of your flaws or your favorite things before you talk about somebody else's. And I think everybody on this panel is good about that. Alex made a great example about his love for Static Shock. But he knows the flaws about it. He's like, dude, just throw water on the guy. You know, obviously he's not Black Panther, but he loves it. That's his passion. Respect people's love and passion, man. You know, don't call anybody dumb for liking something. Right. It is what it is.
Right. And I agree with what he said. Don't when you're talking, this prime example, and this is just an example. I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but in the videos I've done about Power Rangers, I will never say to anyone who loves Power Rangers, you're an idiot because you like Power Rangers. I'd never say that. If you like Power Rangers, that's great. I like the Ninja Turtles. They're talking it's ridiculous. They're talking turtles. I'm not going to get offended if you say to me, oh, the turtles are stupid. Okay, yeah, they're talking. Yeah, they're stupid. They're talking animals. But you know, what do you guys think about this particular topic? Just jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Ask Alex. Please like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel where you get all the updates of every time I'm releasing a video here on my YouTube channel. Jeremy, where can we find you on social media?
I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy doing this show. Week after week, this is easily in my top 3. Maybe we'll say my top 5. I feel like this was in my top 3 episodes. You guys hit me up on YouTube. The channel is Movies Are Terrible. We're all 3 linked up. You can look in the suggested tabs on any of our YouTube channels and find The Controversy. You can find Momentum Media, Movies Are Terrible. We have a community tab on each and every one of those channels. So make sure that you're subscribed. And then hit us up in the community tab over there. If you want to have discussions about movies, it's a great place to do it. It's a great opportunity to submit questions for topics that you want to see discussed. I mean, if you have suggestions for videos that you want to see Alex discuss, or you want to see Ian discuss, or you want to see me discuss, leave it all in my community tab on YouTube. Movies Are Terrible. But for real, definitely hit us up over there. We love to hear from you guys. So thank you for having me, Alex, and I'm looking forward to the next show.
Oh, anytime, man. I love having you guys on. And Ian, where can we find your controversial content at your channel? I'm sorry, guys. I'm only picking on Ian because the last video he did was crazy. But Ian, where can we find you on social media?
Oh man, I think we're at like almost 17K, but oh my god, I've never seen
nice flex.
Yeah, you know, don't hate the game, player, or don't hate the player, hit the game. But no, I've definitely seen a new side of people in the comment section that I wish I'd never seen. But please, if you would like to, engage with me as well, please hit up my community tab. I'm youtube.com/thecontroversy. We're all linked up in our suggestions list. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at @I_controversy. And yeah, let's develop a community. Let's all just start talking and chilling, man. We're all nerds here. Let's have good engagements.
Yeah, and like he said, the community tab is open. It is something that we are trying to implement on all of our channels. And we really just want to establish a community. This show is made for you guys. And when I get the questions from either tweets or emails, sometimes it could be a lot, but I would love for us to continue the discussion in either the comic section or the community tabs on each of our channels. So I want to thank you guys again for watching this video. And as always, you guys, you have a blessed day.